The cellar beneath the cellar. On the layered Psyche. A wine merchant was proud of his cellar. It was the deepest cellar in the town. He had inherited it from his father, and his father from his grandfather, and his grandfather from a great-grandfather no one in the family now remembered. The cellar held 300 casks of wine, arranged on stone shelves, in cool darkness, year after year, growing more valuable with the passing of each season. The merchant climbed down into it each day. He inspected the casks. He listened to the soft sounds of the wine settling. He returned to the surface and conducted his trade. He thought of the cellar as the foundation of his livelihood. He did not, in his daily walk down its stone steps, suspect that there were further depths. One night, in late autumn, a barrel slipped from its shelf. It was not, in itself, a remarkable event. Barrels in cellars of that age occasionally slipped. The wood expanded and contracted with the seasons. A shelf in a particular humidity could give. The merchant came down with his lamp to assess the damage. The barrel had struck the floor at a corner. It had not broken. He set it upright. He looked at the floor where it had struck. A flagstone had moved. It had moved only slightly, perhaps an inch out of its socket, but the flagstone was old and the moving was unusual. He set down the lamp. He knelt. He examined the stone. He could see in the gap what looked like the edge of a wooden surface beneath the floor. He pried the flagstone up. Beneath it was a wooden trapdoor. The trapdoor was small. It had an iron ring set into it. The wood was old but sound. He looked at the trapdoor for a long time. He had not, in any of his 30 years descending into this cellar, known of any trapdoor beneath the floor. He had not, in any conversation with his father, ever heard mention of one. He lifted the trapdoor. Stone steps led down. He descended. The lamp shook in his hand slightly as he went down. The steps were old, older by the look of them than the stones of the cellar above. They had been worn by feet a long time ago. He counted 12 steps. He came out into another cellar. It was larger than the one above. The ceiling was higher. The stone was darker, of a different cut, with the marks of older tools. There were no casks. There was no wine. There were no shelves. The cellar was empty in the ordinary sense, but the emptiness was not the emptiness of an unused room. The emptiness was full. He could not at first have named what it was full of. He walked through it. He could feel in his chest a kind of presence, neither hostile nor welcoming, but old, watching, settled. He walked to the far wall. In the far wall low down was another trapdoor. He lifted it. Beneath the second cellar was a third. The third was older still. The walls were carved with figures. The figures were of men and women in poses he did not recognize. Their clothing was unfamiliar. Their faces had been weathered by some slow process even down in the cool stone. He could not read the carvings. They were not, in any obvious way, decorative. They had the quality of records, events recorded by people for whom recording was not yet, perhaps, a habit, who had set down what they had set down with effort and importance. In the far wall of the third cellar was a fourth trapdoor. He lifted it. Beneath the third cellar was a small stone room. It was much smaller than the others, perhaps 10 feet by 10. The walls were unmarked. The floor was a single piece of stone cut smooth. There was nothing in the room but one chair. A figure was already seated in it. The figure was facing the trapdoor. As the merchant came down the last step, the figure turned slowly and looked at him. It had the merchant's own face. Not similar to, not resembling, the merchant's own face, with the merchant's own scar on the left cheek from a childhood accident, with the merchant's own slight asymmetry in the set of the eyes. "I have been waiting for you to come down for a long time," said the figure. The merchant could not at first speak. He set the lamp on the floor between himself and the chair. "How long?" he said at last. "Since I was sealed in," said the figure. "Which was, in your terms, when you were 3 years old." "Your father sealed me." He had been sealed in himself by his father at the same age. The sealing happens in each generation of our family. The third cellar is built around the fourth, the second around the third, the first around the second, the house around the first, the trade around the house. The trade is the surface. The chair is the center. I am, in some sense, who you were going to be. I was set aside so the surface could be built. The surface has been a good surface. You have run a good trade. You have raised good children. The chair has been waiting. What do you want? I do not want anything from you. I want only to be looked at. The ceiling has been hard. I have been alone in this room for 37 years. The other figures in the carvings are, in a sense, the chairs of the previous generations. Your father's chair is no longer occupied. The figure was released briefly in his last hour and went out of him when he died. My chair has, in your time, been occupied by me. I would, if you were willing, like to come up with you. Come up. Yes, the chair has finished its work. I have been formed by the ceiling into what I needed to become. I am ready now to be lived. You may, if you wish, leave me down here, and I will continue to wait, as your father's figure did, until your own last hour. Or you may bring me up. I will become part of you in the ordinary way. You will be a different merchant after I have come up. You will see things you have not seen. You will, in some sense, no longer be only a wine merchant. You will be a man whose cellar has more than wine in it. The merchant sat down on the cold floor, opposite the figure, with the lamp between them. He sat for a long time. What changes if I bring you up? You will have feelings you have not had. You will have memories that are not, in the ordinary sense, yours, they are mine. You will be, on the surface, the same merchant, in the deep, a different one. The wine will continue to be sold. The children will continue to be loved. But you will, in the late evenings, when you are alone, be company to yourself in a way you have not been. I will be the company. We will sit together in the late evenings, and I will tell you the things I have been thinking in this room for 37 years. What if I leave you down here? Then I will wait. I will wait until you die. I will come out then, briefly, as I said. I will go where my father's figure went and his father's. I do not know exactly where that is. The carvings here record it, but I cannot read them. I am a chair. Chairs do not read. The merchant considered. He had been on the surface a good merchant. He had also been in the surface somewhat tired. He had felt in the last decade that something was missing from his life, but he had not been able to identify what. He had thought occasionally that he should travel. He had thought occasionally that he should take a new wife. He had thought occasionally of a younger version of himself who would have been bolder. He had not pursued any of these. He had continued to sell wine. The wine had been good. Come up, he said. The figure stood from the chair. The figure walked toward him. The figure, as it approached, became less distinct as a separate figure and more like a kind of dense air. By the time it reached him, it had become a presence rather than a shape. It walked into him through his chest. He felt, very briefly, a great warmth, and then the warmth settled. The merchant looked at the empty chair. The chair was now simply a chair. He stood up. He took the lamp. He climbed back up through the 4 trapdoors, sealing each behind him. He came up into the wine cellar. He set the broken flagstone back in place. He went up the stairs into his house. His wife was awake. She looked at him. You were a long time in the cellar. Yes, she looked at him more carefully. You look different. Yes, she did not that night ask further. She had been his wife for 30 years. She had become, in those 30 years, a woman who knew when not to ask. She gave him soup. They went to bed. She slept beside him as she always had. He lived another 28 years. He continued to sell wine. He also, in the late evenings, sat with the figure who had come up into him. He learned over the years what the figure had been thinking in the small stone room. He learned a great many things. He did not, in his trade, become a better wine merchant. He was as good as he had been. But he became, slowly, a different kind of man on the inside, a man who, in the late evenings, was company to himself. When he died, at 81, the figure went out of him. His own son, who was 44 and who was already running the trade, found his father's body in the kitchen, smiling. He buried him in the family plot. He did not, in his own life, ever find the trapdoor beneath the flagstone. He inherited the cellar. He sold the wine. He raised his own children. He was, at 60, when he was sealing the figure into his own grandson at the age of 3, in some moment he did not consciously know about, also building the next layer of cellar around the next room. The work continued, in the family, as it had for many generations. The 4th cellar is, in some province, still beneath the floor. The chair is still there. The next figure is in it. He has been waiting. Beneath your cellar is another cellar. Beneath that another. At the bottom is a chair and someone. already sitting in it, he has your face, he has been. Waiting, you may, when you find him, leave him down. There you may, if you have the courage, bring him up. He will become part of you, you will be company too. Yourself in a way you have not been, the wine will continue to be sold, but the late evenings will, after that, no longer be empty.